Hello and thanks for joining me. It's almost the start of 2025 and I thought I'd take this time to look back on 2024 and share with you 10 of my nature highlights of the year. It's going to include some common things, some rare things, some beautiful things, birds, plants, fungi, maybe something else as well. And hopefully you'll enjoy them. I'd love to know what your highlight of the year is, nature-wise, because everyone's will be very different. You can let me know in the comments section down below. But without further ado, shall we crack on, starting with number 10. So two of my favourite orchid species are greater butterfly orchid and lesser butterfly orchid. And it's because they're simple, they're elegant, they're just understated. And I like that in plants, the understated beauty. Just bright white punctuations of colour in a sea of green. Although frustratingly at this site where I photographed them, you couldn't really lend itself to doing wide shots showing you the landscape because it's chaotic, it's noisy, it's deep in the undergrowth. You could get some nice portrait shots, which I've done here, isolating them and trying to isolate the noisy background. But I would like to go back and photograph them in the wider context. I'd also like to do some stuff with them at night because both of these species attract moths to come and pollinate them. It'd be nice to try and get some pictures of the moths visiting them. So yeah, kind of frustrating in that I couldn't do all the photographs I wanted to do with them. But very much looking forward into next year going back and spending more time with some beautiful orchids. So male Hen Harrier is my next choice, but I'm going to start by showing you a picture of a skylark because that's why I was up on the moors with the camera. I was photographing skylark. It's a species I've not got many pictures of at all and wanted to kind of get some nice shots. And I was using the car as a hide at the side of the road, photographing a skylark. And then out the corner of my eye, I saw this bird coming towards me, being mobbed by a few other birds that weren't happy about it. And instantly you know it's a male Hen Harrier. They're just ghosts going over the moors. They're so pale. And managed to get a few shots, not the best, but today they're my best Hen Harrier pictures. And it was just such a privilege to watch one of our most beautiful and iconic birds of prey flying over the moors. It quickly disappeared over the horizon as it was obviously looking for food. But it was just that unexpectedness, I think, was why it was a highlight. It's a beautiful bird, its rarity value, the location it was, and just totally not prepared for it and unexpected, just took my breath away. Any day you see a Hen Harrier is a red letter day, and especially a male Hen Harrier. So that's why this has definitely made it into the top 10 nature highlights of the year. So this one might surprise you, but this is ringneck parakeet. And I've chosen this, many of you might be surprised by this, because it is a bit of an oddball to have it as one of your top 10 highlights of the year. But I often keep a list of the bird species see from the house and from the garden, and it's almost 100 species now, and it includes things like white stork, wood warbler, green sandpiper, some real kind of unusual things. So to get anything new on the garden list now is quite hard to do. So the other morning, while sat on my desk, hear this squawking coming from the tree at the bottom of the garden, and look out, and it's a ringneck parakeet, new to the garden. So he's got that novelty. They're interesting birds. They're definitely stunning. And it certainly brightened up a dull December day as well. And in this part of North Wales, they're still quite unusual. I know they're common in other parts of the UK, but where we are, they're still a bit of a novelty. So I feel like I have to justify this strongly, but at the same time, it's my list. And if I want ringneck parakeet new to the garden on my list, I'm going to put it there. So it's definitely one of my highlights of the year. The weird, wonderful, and quite frankly stunning violet crown cup definitely takes a place on this list. I was informed about it by my friend Tony Cumberledge, who'd found this in spring and kindly shared with me where it was. And I went to go and photograph it and was not disappointed. You know, that intense colour, weird shape. It's the kind of fungi I like to go out and find and photograph. The cups, the corals, the jellies, that weird aspect of the fungi world. That's the things I really like. And spring this year was a bit hit and miss with certain fungi. Some things didn't really show at all. Others were having a field day. Vinegar cup was one of them. A species we normally see in odd places during a normal year. This year seemed to see it everywhere. So that was having a good year. And normally that would be a highlight in itself. But up against Violet Crown Cup, I'm afraid Vinegar Cup doesn't stand a chance. So Violet Crown Cup definitely makes it onto this list. Now, in the autumn, I was lucky enough to spend time with a couple of herons on a river in Snowdonia, and they were absolutely joyful to work with because herons are usually quite skittish and shy. These ones just weren't bothered by people, dog walkers, anything. So it was nice to be able to get into the river, get some shots and some footage that I've been wanting for a while of herons, as well as watching them hunt. You know, the river there is full of salmon and trout, and on the mini cascades along the river, you can watch these fish jumping, and that's exactly what the herons were doing. I was in awe of these fish doing their thing, and the herons are watching the fish doing their thing, and I'm watching the heron watching the fish doing their thing. It was just nice, and even managed to get a little bit of footage and pictures of them eventually being successful in catching a fish. But yeah, heron hunting fish along a mountainous river in Snowdonia, what's not to love? Now, my next choice is the common sulphur tuft, a mushroom that's found right the way throughout the UK. But it was the encounter that I had whilst I was filming it in the middle of the night in Snowdonia that really, really was special. During the day, I'd been leading an event and found this tree absolutely covered in sulphur tuft mushrooms and thought I'll go back and film and get some photographs of them at night with a black light. And under black light, they fluoresce. They look like they're glowing in the dark, not strictly true, but they are remarkable. They take on a hold over persona at night. So it was the fact that these mushrooms just look great, making them glow in the dark, with the stars above me. It was just absolutely fantastic. I did a video all about it. There's a link in the description below if you want to know more about that. But yeah, something so common in a perfect setting, in an amazing encounter. Yeah, sulphur tuft glowing in the dark, definitely highlight of the year. Now, I'm sure you were all fed up of seeing the images at the time, but I'm including the Aurora in my list for a number of reasons. It was spectacular, but only for about half an hour. You know, one of the things I've always kind of wondered about seeing the Aurora in the UK is how strong is it with your naked eye? And over the last few years, I've been interested in astrophotography and going out under red alerts, trying to get pictures of it. And you can't see anything with your naked eye. The camera sensor's so strong, it does pick up colour. So I've always kind of been slightly disappointed with my Aurora chasing. But in the autumn, when the red alert went out, Lauren came in and took a picture out the window with her mobile phone, and it was strong in an urban area, well lit. So immediately thought, right, we need to get out into the darker areas. And one of the benefits of living in North Wales is we do have dark sky areas, so we can appreciate things like that. But when we went out, you could see faint glows with your naked eye, but it wasn't terribly strong. And then about midnight, there was a half-hour period where you looked up, and even with your naked eyes, the sky was pink. The whole sky looked like it was on fire. And the greens came through as well. It was so strong for this half-hour period around midnight that it was absolutely magical. And either side of that, the camera was still picking things up, but it lost its naked eye visibility. But that half-hour period with Lauren in the middle of North Wales with a wonderful hawthorn tree, definitely highlight of the year. So we're at the business end of the list now, and number 3 is the violet dappling, or at least that's what I'm calling it. It doesn't have an accepted English name, but violet dappling should be it. Lauren's colleague Els found this at Chester Zoo, and she'd messaged Lauren to kind of show her, like, what is this? And Lauren had messaged me, but I was at work over in Salford leading an event. And it wasn't until after the event that I looked at my phone, checked my messages, and saw this picture, and my jaw dropped. And I let out an audible gasp. I was that in awe of this picture that Lauren immediately arranged for me to on the way home, call off at the zoo, and Els would show me these mushrooms in situ. Managed to get a couple of photos in situ, but nothing special. Very dark where they were, very tricky to work. Took a couple of specimens to photograph on a white background. Those images are now on our website, and one of the reasons for doing it is because most of my books don't even mention this species. It's rare. There's only 12 records in the whole of the UK of this species. And for something so colourful and iconic, these things don't go amiss. It is genuinely rare. And then we've got in the herbarium dried specimen, and one will probably be sent off to be sequenced as well, because I'm not sure if Kew have got any specimens sequenced. So it was just one of those things of it being late November, early December when it was found, out of season. You know, normally by then you stop looking for mushrooms. It being rare, colourful, ticks all the right boxes. So a huge thanks to Els for letting Lauren know, and a huge thanks to Lauren for letting me know. But yeah, definitely a highlight of the year. So my next choice, and it was close to being number one, but I'm putting it at number two, is Waxwing. And 2023-24 winter period was a really good year for Waxwing in North Wales. Had lots of encounters with them, but the particular encounter that made the highlight was in May, mid-May, a couple of miles outside Mold, big forest, and I was there one day, and all of a sudden hear Waxwing. It's such an unmistakable noise, and it was a pair, or what I think is, it was two birds definitely, and I assumed a pair, and I thought, this is it. This will be the first time in recorded history waxwings have bred in the UK, and it's going to be here in North Wales. So the following 10 days or so, I went up quite regularly to watch them, to see if they were going to stay and nest. And it's quite surreal watching waxwings in the middle of May in North Wales, because you're watching these birds you associate with winter, and all of a sudden there's a chorus of cuckoo and redstart and pied flycatcher and garden warbler, and they're surrounded by a load of flies. It's totally an experience I've never had before. But about 11 days after I first saw them there, they disappeared. And I assume they've gone north and bred high up in the Arctic, and thought, don't fancy it down in North Wales. But it was that anticipation that it could be the first breeding pair in the UK. That was exciting. They're a stunning bird. They're one of my favourites. I have a long history of wonderful encounters with waxwing, and this just adds to it. So waxwing in North Wales in mid-May makes number two. So we're finally there, number one, and it's going to be Yellow Navel of the Mountain, or Bogel Melan is its Welsh name. And it might not look the most sensational of species, although it is incredibly beautiful. Bright yellow little species, only kind of a centimetre or so in size. But what this species represents is one of the achievements I wanted to do this year, which was to start getting up into the mountains of Snowdonia. I've always had issues with my weight. I've always had issues with food. You know, when I'm happy, I eat. When I'm sad, I eat, and everything in between. And if I wanted to see some species, alpine species, growing in Snowdonia, whether it's plants or fungi, it means getting fit and getting up into the mountains. So that was my goal since the start of the year. I have lost 5 stone since the start of the year, and I still need to lose more and get fitter. But it's been a massive achievement. So back in summer, Lauren and I had a walk into the mountains, into the Glideri, and managed to get up into the mountains on a glorious day, and bagged my first 3,000er. And on the way, managed to see this tiny little mushroom growing at the side of the path. And it's a species that's only once been seen in North Wales before, and it only usually grows above a certain altitude. So if you want to see it, you've got to get up into the mountains. So it's a wonderful species in its own right. But it's what it represents to me. This year has been a journey of trying to lose weight, get fit, get up into the mountains and start seeing wildlife that I've kind of looked at, read about for years, and it's time to actually, get fit. It's not just the kind of going up into the mountains, it's carrying the camera, the tripods, everything else that comes with it. Not only do you need your day pack, you need all the kind of photography gear with it. So you need to be seriously quite fit when it comes to looking for plants and fungi and photographing and filming these things. So that's my highlight of the year. I think it's more the journey than the actual species, but it's what that species represents to me. So there you have it. That's my top 10 nature highlights of the year. What do you think? Is there any that you particularly liked? You can let me know in the comments down below. As usual, you can like and subscribe, really helps the channel out. In the coming weeks and months, be having lots more videos coming out. I'm waiting for the weather to turn at the minute. It's been awful for the last couple of weeks. And as soon as it does, I'm going to be filming one over by the coast. A bit more on that soon. But hopefully you've enjoyed it. Have a great rest of 2024, and I wish you all the very best for 2025. I want it to be wildlife filled for everyone, and hopefully I shall see you all out in the field.